where unsafe, unknowing, learning people come to learn maybe, just maybe, we're all a little bit damaged. Someone once told me it's safe to assume 50% of the people I meet are struggling and feel wounded in some way. I would venture to say it's closer to 100%. Every one of us is either currently struggling or has struggled with something that made us feel less than, like we aren't good enough, we aren't capable, we are relatively damaged, and that's what we're here to talk about. In my ongoing investigation of the damaged self, I want to better understand how others view their own challenges. Maybe it's not so much about the damage, maybe it's about our perception and how we deal with it. There is a deep commitment to becoming who we are meant to be. Of Tricia Sybersma's story. How do you come on over and listen after a relatively damaged podcast by damaged parents? Wherever you listen to your podcast, faces seemingly insurmountable odds to come out on the other side whole. You, who stares directly into the face of adversity with unyielding persistence to discover your purpose. You are the people who inspire me to be more fully me. Not in spite of my trials, but because of them. Let's hear from another hero. Today's topic includes sensitive material which may not be appropriate for children. This podcast is provided for informational purposes only and is not intended as advice. The opinions expressed here were strictly those of the person who gave them. Today we're going to talk with Tricia Sybersma. She has many roles in her life: daughter, sibling, mother, aunt, spouse, cousin, grandparent, and more. We'll talk about how as a child she didn't feel understood, validated, or included in her family, and how she found health and healing. Let's talk. Welcome back to Relatively Damaged by Damaged Parents. Today we have Tricia Sybersma with us. She was born in Toronto and she spent the early years in the Collingwood area. In 1993, she moved to the Caribbean with her husband and two young children, where she still resides. The move provided an opportunity for her to immerse herself into the Caribbean culture, experiencing similarities of values and challenges every parent shares, including the lack of resources when things go sideways. As a result of her youth and parenting challenges, she has developed the GCA, Gratitude Connection Action Platform, and her website, where she supports and encourages others with tools to navigate their life experiences from a place of confidence, trust, and self-worth in a self-sustaining way. Her website is triciasybersma.com, and you'll find that information in the show notes. Welcome to the show, Tricia.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Heartfelt gratitude to you and the wonderful work you're doing, all the information that you're getting out, and welcoming me to your show.
Oh, I just really feel honored because one of the things that in the form that you had filled out, I think I had asked the question, how long did it take you to find your balance? And the response was, I wish you would have asked me a different question, like what tools I use after I found my balance, or not even after. Tell us where you're coming from with that comment.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. For me, it wasn't so much when I found my balance. What was meaningful to me was, what tools do I use to constantly rebalance myself? Because let's face it, we're balanced 1 minute and then we're not, and then we are, and then we're not, because of the constant opportunities and challenges and just everything life throws at us every day, every moment. And so it's important to have tools in place so in that instant we can rebalance. And having said that, I will share that I'm actually on a ball right now, not a chair. So even live, physical, right here, right now, I am constantly balancing my physical body to the ball in the same way I would rebalance my energy and emotional mental bodies as things come forward.
When did you figure out that it was about finding the tools to rebalance versus just finding the balance? Was there a point in time where all of a sudden it just clicked that you're going to have to rebalance throughout life?
Yes. And related to one of the other questions you asked me, in what order I showed up in my family and how that influenced my life experiences. And I showed up first. I'm the oldest of four. And in my family dynamic, it became very obvious quite early on that it was up to me to save myself, to be able to navigate my own entry into an independent person. And so with that journey, through various looking outside for various support systems and help and magic answers and those sorts of things, although they would provide temporary answers and relief, I realized that, you know what? We really just have to save ourselves. It's the only sustainable way to keep growing, evolving, and developing our own toolkit so that we can pull out what we need without always having to look outside. Because you know what? Sometimes those people are busy, and sometimes those tools or the outside support won't quite fit for the situation we're going through. So to develop a variety of tools that we can draw from and not have to wait for other people or not have to rely on other outside things, that we can draw from within and wham, find our own solutions.
Okay. You may have noticed that I really smiled when you said magic answers. Because I think I remember feeling that way in my own life. I wanted some magic. I wanted maybe someone else to solve it. But is that when you say magic answers, are you referring to things like that? And if that's not it, please explain what else that might mean.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm referring to, because they're not to confuse that there is magic around us in nature and in other aspects of our life. But when we were going through the various traumas as from both sides, as a child growing up, as well as a parent in traumatic situations, that one counselor is going to save us, or that one system is going to save us. And they all have their place, because even that one medication is going to save us. And they all have their place. They really do. But really, the only true thing we can rely on is using all that and developing our own sense, our own navigation, and our ability to trust what we are being drawn to in that particular moment from the inside out, not the outside in. And there's a slight difference. It's a different ownership when what we're drawn to support us in the moment comes from inside versus coming from out.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense to me. And it reminds me in Al Anon, there is it a slogan? Let it begin with me. And even in relationship, based on what I'm hearing you say, that's the only place it can begin. Yes, there are these other things, and it starts with what we choose to do in that moment. Am I getting that right?
Yes. And so the transition to that, the group that helped me the most in providing me with the tools to transition into that place is HeartMath. And I am a certified HeartMath trainer with specialties in anxiety, trauma, and stress. And how that appeared to me was during traumatic time with one of my children. We didn't know she was going to survive. It was a very serious time. And being the parent of that, I was in fight flight myself, like really not able to critically think and absorb much. And it was just at the time where computers were getting up and going and social media was becoming a thing. And I must have seen a HeartMath social media post and liked it. They kept showing up, and they showed up when I needed a little prompt the most. And of all the information out there that I was reading about PTSD and the different issues out there, I could absorb what the HeartMath posts were telling me. Just one liner or a quote, and I could absorb it because I was ready to reconnect with my own intuition and my heart guidance, which is what HeartMath is all about. Aligning your heart to your brain, not brain to heart, heart to brain, which resets your nervous system and starts the hormonal change from stress hormones to healing hormones. And so that system helped me transition and gave me confidence and built my trust in myself to know what tools would work for me and what tools to use in a moment of everyday stress, to navigating a Category 5 hurricane aftermath, to navigating the last 2.5 years and all the things that brought into my life and everybody's life. So that was the catalyst that reconnected and aligned my ability to access my heart intelligence and open up all the things that we store in our brain that get cut off when we're in fight and flight.
I think what you're referring to when you say cut off is what I'm calling in my mind tunnel vision.
Yes.
In fight or flight.
Yes.
Only one solution helps, or that's what my brain is telling me, and I'm not seeing any other options.
Because it has to, because that's survival. In the olden days, when we were being chased by something that could eat us, we just needed to go forward quickly and not stop and pick an apple or roses. We just needed to get out of there. But today, because sometimes that's still valid, but today, because of our stresses are more multifaceted, it is helpful if we can maintain to all the information and the critical thinking we have, as well as staying in line with our intuition, so that we can see all the available options that we have right in front of us right now and change our perspective and our view, and then pick the ones that intuitively we feel are right.
I was recently reading somewhere that our social stresses can actually bump us into that fight or flight.
Absolutely.
So let's see if I can explain it right. It actually triggers the part of the brain that also interprets physical pain. And you're nodding yes. So hey, I remembered correctly.
Yeah, because our brain, now I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to speak very plainly and from personal experience and everything I've been exposed to and everything that I've learned from great organizations like HeartMath and working with horses, because there's a lot of similarity as to where we go when we are stressed, and prey animals, which is a horse, go when they're stressed. And that is survival. And our brain doesn't always know the difference between a physical threat and an emotional, mental threat. To them, it's a threat, just a threat. So alarm bell, we're threatened socially or physically, alarm bells go off and we go into that. What is the quickest way out of here? And sometimes that's the right answer, and sometimes it isn't the right answer. Sometimes the thinking and feeling intuitively around the problem, especially if it's an emotional mental problem, is a better answer. And so to access that, that's where connecting to our heart and our heart intelligence plays a big part.
Now, the other thing I remember seeing somewhere too, because I also love HeartMath, so it's probably in HeartMath, is that the heart communicates or sends more information to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. What does that mean?
And it's bigger than that. So our heart sends information out to our body.
Oh, so not even just to our brain.
Yes. When you're driving and you feel there's a car coming, or you're in your kitchen and you feel like you grab something before it tips off the counter. So that can be explained by the wonderful data that they've collected that clearly shows our heart interprets and picks up imaging and movement and our environment faster than our eyes, our ears, and our other senses in our brain can.
Which I think is really interesting, because I was reading another book about how minds change, and it was pointed out that we only see in 2 dimensions anyway. So I think what I hear you saying from the heart is that the heart is literally sensing our environment.
Yeah.
And maybe our eyes are just part of that sensing. That's what's happening in my mind anyway. Yes. That's what I'm thinking.
We know that there's actually brain-related cells in our heart. They're there. They're actually there. So that's just biologically, we have brain cells in our heart. We have the brain cells in our heart are of a similar makeup as the brain cells in our brain. And so they have a network that acts similarly to our brain, and they call it the heart brain or heart intelligence.
Yeah. So I'm thinking this is what most people refer to as their intuition or their subconscious. Is that the type of information we're getting from our heart? And how, actually, further, another step or question, how did you start to trust it?
There was something deep in me that just knew to go there. It was a resonance. It was, oh, I'm home. It was, oh, I'm, of course. Also, the way HeartMath is set up, of course, is science-based. So everything that they share with us if you're a numbers person, is backed by research and research that's all transparent and all there for anyone to see.
Mhm.
So it's a really unique space when it really bridges the known and the unknown. And now we have the technology to actually measure electromagnetic energy that's coming from our heart, which is 1,000 times more than what's coming from our brain. And also what happens to our body when we align our brain, our heart with our brain, and they term it coherence, and how that ripples out to affect our hormonal system, our nervous system, our metabolic system, and really just floods our body in a whole different way. And we can access that easily, anytime, eyes open, when anything is going up. And this is spontaneous, but we can do it right here. It only takes a couple seconds.
Okay. What do we do to get into heart brain coherence?
All right. So what we do, and eyes open or shut, doesn't matter if you want to shut your eyes for a few minutes. So what we're going to do is focus your attention in the area of your heart. And I like to insert, what does that look like to you today? Because, you know, we all learn differently. For some of us are visual, some of us are audio, some of us are readers. You know, we have our own way of learning. So focus your attention in the area of your heart and let your heart show up, however it shows up. It could show up as a biological heart. It could show up with a big golden globe. It could show up with colors. However it shows up, let it show up. And just trust that you're focusing your attention in the area of your heart. Then next, imagine your breath flowing in and out of your heart. Obviously, your breath is flowing into your lungs and throughout your body. But for this moment, imagine what it looks like for your breath to flow in and out of your heart. This is called heart-focused breathing. And to shift into coherence, the next thing we're going to do is activate a heart-renewing feeling that we choose. We can either choose gratitude or joy or bliss, or remember a moment where we felt gratitude or joy or peace. Remember that, choose to remember that moment and bring that feeling up into this experience right now. It could be a feeling that you have around your pet, a friend, a loved one, and just let that feeling grow from your heart. And now we're shifting into coherence.
That's so easy.
Yes, it is that easy. And the power in it is that we are choosing the feeling.
Mm-hmm.
We are choosing to find a memory, an experience, or creating and activating the emotional energy we want to experience right now.
Now, you said you work with people with trauma, anxiety, things like that.
Yes.
So when people with high anxiety and trauma, and if they come to you or they start learning these techniques, can it be scary for them? And if so, what would they do?
Yes. Of course, one of our protective mechanisms when we're in uncomfortable situations, from the whole spectrum of what that could mean to the individual, we close off because we protect what's most vulnerable to us. So within what we just did, there are micro steps that the person can explore. So it's slowly they start to retrust and reopen that access to their intuition and heart intelligence and the trust in themselves.
So gaining this trust in yourself it's not like you're going to cut off all these people in your world, good or bad, perceived as good or bad, but it's gaining, it seems like, this confidence inside that says, I can make a good decision, even if I don't have all the information. That's what it seems like to me.
Yes, you create a filter or a lens. And so hence why I created Gratitude Connection Action. On the days where I could only hug a tree, and I had many days where I could only hug a tree during the height of some of the traumatic events that I've navigated through, that working with the energy of gratitude, not the word, the energy of gratitude. It's not the fuzzy feelings, but knowing that this tree is holding me up right now. Thank you, tree. Just the real basic energy of being able to just grab a glass of water, just the everyday simple things started to create some space. It started to bring me into coherence without me even realizing that's what was happening. And so once I had some space created and I could see a little bit more around me and not so tunnel vision, Then I became more aware of the connection, the potential of connections available to me, the field of connections. And then I could pick, I'm going to reach out to this person or that system, or that quote will be my quote for the day. And I was able to choose what to connect to. And I was also able to choose what not to connect to. Because everything around us is connecting to us, or we're connecting to it, because we're electromagnetic beings, magnetic. So we are constantly attracting, but we can also repel, just like magnets can repel. So as I became aware, it was really up to me to decide what to connect to and what not to connect to, or not allow to connect to me. Then what am I going to do with it? I'm going to take action. I'm going to actually say no, or say yes, or attract or not attract. And what started to happen is you start to create your own energy, sustainable energy force that you take with you. So gratitude and connections, the power of connections, helps us create our own, you can call it your own atmosphere, like a planet. So my own atmosphere. And that starts working for us, because already my filters are in place. And so already I'm feeling like, oh, I'm not really drawn to that over there. So our filters start working for us. It becomes a lot smoother and a lot easier, because then we just start being in spaces where things do resonate with us. And we're really quick to notice when they don't. We're really quick to notice when they don't. And then to fire, and if I find I'm getting a little fatigued and I need to fire up my atmosphere, my own energetic field, then I just look at a tree. And again, I just start being grateful for the easy things that we have access to. Just the fact that we can complain is something to be grateful for. Like, we can actually vent when we have those moments, and we can complain, and we just have to just sort things out very loudly. Even that action, the ability to do that in however way that looks for the individual, is actually something to go, hey, at least I can even do that. So it's basic that it's easy to miss. We're always looking for something big, right? Big.
Yeah.
But really, it's the little things.
Yeah, it's almost like, what if it's just right here? It's been right here the whole time.
Like, we're often being bombarded by, look here, look here, look here, look here. We're not enough. We're not good enough. And we don't have the information. But what if we do?
Yeah, I love that question. Now, as someone who used this as a tool to help find balance and keep balance, or go back into balance, are there times where going into the heart-brain coherence, if you're in, let's say a traumatic event just happened, where maybe you have to go back to first steps? So that does happen. So you do have to sometimes go back to, okay, I'm just going to do the beginning things now.
Oh yeah, there's only first steps. Heart focused breathing, no matter how many years you've been a heart math instructor and how many specialties you have, the first step, focus your attention on the air of your heart. That is how everyone. And even with that quick, oh, I have a heart. Like, even if that's all you can do is, okay, what am I supposed to heart math? Okay, I have a heart. You're already there.
Okay. So once you get it, it's easier to find it again in the midst of a trauma, or a trauma.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah. Yes. Or like a surprise event, good or bad. Good or bad. So sometimes when good things are happening, we always focus on bad things happening, but sometimes when good things happening and we get so excited, like today is, oh, I get to be on this show. It's so exciting. I felt myself going into fight flight because I was excited. I had to go, whoa, where's my heart? Okay, heart focus, breathe. And so I could be really present and really speak from my heart today. So it's not just necessarily a negative experience. This also benefits positive experiences, especially if we're asked to public speak, or we're in a group and we have something to say and we're like, oh, I can't speak up. Focus my attention to the area of my heart. And when you do that, we actually have a term called coherence, like heart coherence speaking. And we're public speakers, or even people who just want to find their voice and trust it, can use it to speak from their heart for good occasions, positive occasions. Athletes use it. What's more exciting than going to an athletic event? We have Olympians.
Because I'm thinking heart-brain coherence it feels really important to me, which I don't think we use that very often in today's world. It's, we want the data, we want this, and sometimes maybe the data is all great and dandy.
Yes.
And there's something underneath that maybe that our heart will point us to or away from for whatever reason.
Yes, yes. There's a commerce level here. When we look out, there is an exchange, and there is a place for all the tools out there. There's a place. I'm not saying that. There's a place. But wouldn't it be wonderful that we can really use our heart intelligence and our tuition to be also watchful of our personal resources?
Yeah.
And go from the consumerism, pick me, to, oh, I've got this much resources, time, money, whatever the resource is, energy, days, time, and hour of the day, to be able to really, for ourselves, looking after our resources, to make sure we're spending our time, money, and energy in areas that really resonate for us, whether picking outside help like therapists and whatever, they all have their place. But we can really get the most for us, saving our resources and using them carefully if we're choosing from a heart-centered place. And just think of it from their point of view. If they are working with clients, whether it's a massage therapist, a physiotherapist, or a therapist, other therapist, if they're working with clients who are resonating with them, how much further they would be able to help us if we're both coming to it from a place of resonance and coherence and intuition.
Yeah, almost like we get to follow find our purpose and follow it based on what our heart is telling us.
Yeah, and the people and the tools that are going to work with our individual. So in my work, I talk about things like unique perspective up. And that was really a catalyst for me when I realized, I shared in my bio, I do see the world differently. And I struggled in school, and I struggled with peers. And when I realized that seeing the world through a unique lens is really valuable and a gift. And so I said, what's your brand? My first website designer said, what's your brand? I'm like, unique perspective. It's our up. It's how we are experiencing the world around us, because we all experience it in our own way, a unique way. Because everything we've experienced to this moment is framing our unique perspective, which is constantly changing and shifting as new experiences and new information come in, but it's still our unique perspective. Yeah. And when we start honoring our unique perspective and getting to know our unique perspective, like how do we really feel about what we're seeing and what we're experiencing in the world, then we access our inner power.
Oh, well, everyone, if you want to learn how to access your inner power, I highly recommend getting in contact with Tricia. You can find her at triciasybersma.com. I could talk with you forever, but we are out of time, and I'm just so glad I got to have you on my show. I'm really honored. Thank you so much.
I'm honored. We'll share it.
Okay, that works. We'll share it.
But yeah, this is what community is all about. It's been wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Relatively Damaged by Damaged Parents. We really enjoyed talking to Tricia about how she learned how to find confidence within herself. We especially liked when she walked us through heart-brain coherence. To unite with other damaged people, connect with us on Facebook, look for Damaged Parents. We'll be here next week, still relatively damaged.